It's like I always say, one flew over the cuckoo's nest. You know his famous line?
That was
Yeah.
crazy when he said that.
Yeah, I was going ape when he said that, dude.
1, 2, 3, 4.
These boys only want the best of. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that Michael Bay shit. They want the shit that pops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners. These boys are the Oscar Wieners.
Yum, yum.
Oscar Wieners.
Welcome to Oscar Wieners, the only
Welcome.
show on the internet where Hollywood's biggest night is a bag of nuts.
Do you nuts want to play cards or do you want to jerk off? Huh?
Do you nuts have any guts? Huh? It's turning into just like a guy from Brooklyn.
Chief, just put the ball in the basket.
Martini, what are you doing?
It's funny because like he doesn't really have that voice in this. This is like the one Jack Nicholson movie I've seen where he doesn't have the Jack voice.
He's giving a very Nicholson performance in that he's
Yeah,
playing a fucking just a guy who's like
it's
a
just a guy.
tornado.
Hence,
Um,
which is another notch in the belt of this is the best actor we've ever seen living.
After watching this, I'm like, I think I could kind of get on board with that take that Jack
Right?
Nicholson is the greatest actor who ever lived.
He's just so fun to watch. He's just bananas. He's a kooky little crazy guy. I
Yes, he
never
is. Yeah,
know how old Jack Nicholson is in any of
it's
his movies.
it's the hairline. It's
Yeah,
always receding.
always. But like, is he could be like 20 or he could be 40. I have no idea.
Yeah, he's kind of like Gene Hackman in that. These men of the 70s were like just like they were like old babies. You could be
Just
like, I don't know if you're ancient or you're like you just graduated high school.
just behemoths. Absolute behemoth baby old man.
And what's crazy about Nicholson is somehow women are like, I don't know, I just like have to have sex with him. Like he's like a famous womanizer.
I mean, I don't really know what his real life persona is like, but he's definitely magnetic on screen in all of his roles.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing with this movie is like somehow it's about like the worst guy, and somehow you're like devastated at the end and also rooting for him throughout. It's like really weird.
Yeah. Well, that actually is one of the well, what are we doing here? What is this? What's this show about? We just gabbing? We just
Uh,
shooting the gab?
this is Oscar Wieners,
Nice.
a weekly show where we pick a Best Picture winner at random and try to figure out if it's Best Picture
Worthy?
worthy. Nice. And today we're talking about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, directed by the 1976 Best Picture winner, directed by Milos Forman.
Milos.
Um, Shout out to my Czech brothers out there and sisters.
Shout out.
Um, he is a guy. He's a guy we'll cover again because he directed
Milos?
Amadeus. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Look at all these guys. They're getting in there, huh? Does
Yeah.
the Academy plays favorites, huh? They like their
I don't know.
guys. They like
I mean,
their.
I guess so, but like also like Scorsese and Spielberg have only won Best Director slash Best Picture once.
I hate to say it, but I guess Spielberg is really only half as good as somebody like
Milos.
Milos.
All right, so this is a podcast where we talk about fucking movies, and we're talking about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's a movie. It's based on a book by Ken Casey. I want to say it might be
Yeah,
Kesey, but I'm gonna say Casey.
yeah, Kesey. We'll say Kesey because
Ken
we know him.
Kesey,
We know
maybe.
him. So, okay,
Ken.
Kesey. So, yeah,
Um,
Ken eight.
Based on the book by Ken Kesey. Uh, and it's about a man named Randall Patrick McMurphy, played by Nicholson here, who he's at a work farm because he this is crazy. This movie asks us to sympathize with basically a pedophile, which is insane. Um, he's at a work farm for statutory rape of a 15-year-old girl,
It is.
and he's like, "What if I acted kooky and got sent to a psychiatric institution?
That
Because like
is
that
his
would be a way
gambit.
easier way to fill out the remainder of my sentence."
Right.
Um, and yeah, so he gets sent to, does the hospital have a name? I don't think so. It's just like a state hospital, and
In Oregon?
I get,
Washington?
I was gonna say I get the vibe that it's in like Oregon or something.
I believe it is, yeah.
Maybe Washington, yeah, because I think Ken Kesey was
Jake
from
Hughes.
Oregon, or like kind of hung out in Oregon.
Well, he worked in a psychiatric ward a lot like this one.
Oh,
That's like that was his inspiration for the book. His background is in psychology.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, and he just decided to write this book like while he was on the job.
Right, that's cool. You read the book recently.
Yeah, the book's fantastic. I love the book. The book's a masterpiece.
It's narrated by Chief, right?
I apologize in advance because I'm going to be insufferable on this podcast, by the way, because the book is a thousand
Nobody
times
likes
better.
this guy.
This
Oh,
is our
really?
first, yeah. This should be our first entry in our Believe It a Book podcast. There is the movie feels so loose in comparison. Like there's so much missing and so much that they hit the basic beats, but so much. There are so many parts that lacked the emphasis that they had in the book. There's a lot less juice, I feel like, in the movie.
Is McMurphy the way Nicholson plays him, or is Nicholson just doing Nicholson?
Nicholson's great. Like I think his when it kicks off and like he enters the facility and he's like going like just shout and be like whoa, I'm like this is gonna be fantastic. This movie's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's not really. This is not Jack Nicholson's fault. I think his portrayal is really fun and cool to watch. But he's not set up the right way in my mind. Like he comes in, he's acting in the book. He acts kind of like the mayor, and he's just like meeting everybody. He's like really genial, jovial, just like talking to everybody, playing cards, all this stuff. And then Nurse Ratched kind of starts to like leak stuff about him to the rest of the crew because they kind of like side with him against her. So then she kind of like she lets them know about the statutory rape thing. Like you don't find out about that until like way late in the book until you've already
Oh,
decided, oh, this guy's an awesome guy. You know what I mean? Like the book kind of sets up these
right.
preconceived notions and then challenges them later on. And
That's
ultimately,
interesting.
yeah, like ultimately he's an incredibly flawed individual and a bad guy. Like, but it's a lot more complicated, at least in your mind, because at first you're like, oh, this guy's awesome. And then slowly you start to have some doubts about his character.
Right.
Whereas in the movie, it's just like, yeah, here's this guy who raped somebody. Now he's trying to get out of prison by faking psychosis. So it's like, oh, I don't like this guy at all. This guy sucks.
But I weirdly think that's more complicated, is to know everything up
Really?
front and then be like, you will root for this pedophile. Like,
It's the tagline.
yeah, it's like you will believe fucking a dog can play basketball. And then they get the biggest movie star of the time period to
Right.
be like, hey, you want to play this pedophile? Like Chris Evans would never.
And
You know what I
that's his
mean?
fucking problem. That's his lack of range and depth. Is that Chris Evans would never play a pedophile.
Well, the whole time I was watching it, first of all, Chris Evans wouldn't do it. And Chris Evans, you can go on the show and refute that if you'd like.
Go right ahead.
But also, like, I just don't think a movie like this would ever get made today. Um,
No, because how are you supposed to sympathize with this character? He's he's
that's what's
presented
crazy.
as a vile person.
Exactly,
From the
but that's
jump.
what's crazy about the movie is at the end you're like it's devastating when McMurphy is like lobotomized.
Yeah.
And it's like it is really complicated and that makes it like interesting art as opposed to like some didactic movie about good and bad.
He's kind of like he's
He's
presented
like
as like shifty.
anti-authority,
He's anti-authority. He's like,
a very
I'm just gonna,
70s man.
yeah, like obviously you should not fake any sort of psychological disorder to get out of anything
Yeah.
that's incredibly wrong. But you kind of you support him a little bit. You're like, he's fighting the system. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna bide his time and do all this stuff. You kind of envy him a little bit because he's like so free spirited and just like, I'm just gonna do whatever and like nobody can challenge me. And for the most part, nobody does except for Nurse Ratched.
I like that's one thread that I like that sort of carries throughout the movie, where both of them, both in their respective conversations, both Billy and Chief are like, because McMurphy's like, you should come with me, and they're both, and at different points they're both like, we're like, I'm not like you. Like I'm not ready. It's like
Yeah,
you really get the sense that these are, because you find out sort of maybe about a little bit more than midway probably through the movie that most of the people, at least that Murphy is hanging out with, are in that ward voluntarily. And it's
yeah,
like these men who like, I mean, obviously they have various, mental illnesses and just reasons that they can't be out, that they feel like they can't be out in the world. But it's also like these are men that can't deal with the world. They can't deal with like, I don't know. Is this true? I don't know. It's like they can't deal with the fucking McMurphys of the world that are just like there's like a million of them out there, and it's like the world is so overwhelming that it's like I'd rather be in this very controlled environment. And it's like
right.
McMurphy is like a fucking monkey wrench being thrown in the goddamn cogs.
But I think that's the benefit of his introduction, why you like him so much. At least why I like him so much. It's because he kind of introduces this radical idea that, hey, maybe you guys can survive in the real world. I've hung out with all you guys and you seem like everybody's nuts. You know what I mean? That's his argument.
Right,
It's
right,
like
right,
you're no crazier than any Joe or Sally on the street.
right.
Like you guys could thrive in society if you really believe that you could.
Yeah,
And he gets them to believe that. And I think that's pretty special.
yeah. You
Yeah,
like
the
this
whole
movie?
not really, no.
Oh, really?
Well, you know what? I do, but I hate. Look,
It's tainted by the
I'm gonna
book
be the
because you
guy.
love the
It's not
book.
the book. I love the book is
Right.
great. I think this movie does so much injustice to almost every character. Like Chief Bromden, that's my biggest gripe with this is that he's the narrator in the book, and he's like arguably the main character of the book too.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
Like
That's
his character moments like really push the story forward, and they really don't in this, or they don't have the same impact.
do people in the do other characters in the book think he is also deaf and mute like in the movie?
Everybody does.
Okay.
Like the whole book starts with he first of all he gives a full rundown of like the politics of the psychiatric facility. He's like, here, here this person's role, like here are all these people. We explain who the acutes are, who the chronics are, like the difference between them. I think you kind of need to know that stuff. Or at least like having that knowledge helped me better understand some of the characters. But he has moments in the movie, like the whole hand raising scene where they're voting on the World Series. It's it's moving. It's like deeply moving in the book because for the entire time, like the chief claims like he wants to be cagey, so like nobody bothers him. Basically, that's like his whole setup. Like they can't fuck with him if they don't think he can hear them. But his hand raising scene, it's like he almost didn't want to do it, but just something spurred and like McMurphy spurred something inside him that like almost like forced him to raise his hand. It's like he finally started developing this spirit and not caring if people, didn't know that he was deaf. Like that was his first indication to the general staff on the ward that like he knows what's going on.
Right.
Like, and they kind of like spout secrets to each other. They gossip about other patients, like in front of him, because they don't think he can hear. They're like, they don't give a shit about him. He's like a fly on the wall, but he sacrifices that role,
Like
for the sake of his
like
own
cover of
autonomy.
being right. He like sacrifices his like ability to just like retreat from people bothering him.
Yeah, and his development is really central to the story, I feel like, and it's almost gone in the movie.
Well, that's interesting. It's interesting that because we get the sense too in the movie that uh the staff also think he can't hear
Yeah.
and is mute. Um, and when he raises his hand, it doesn't change their relationship to Chief, which I think is it doesn't really change anybody's relationship to Chief except like McMurphy. I think it seems like McMurphy slowly realizes like there's more to this guy than people are giving him credit for. Like I think, but
Yeah.
like it is true that there's no repercussions for him raising his hand. Which I'm not saying there should be like some kind of blowout, but there's no like subtle change in like dynamics when that after that happens, if that makes sense.
Right, but in the book
Yeah.
it does change. Like the
Right,
people of the
right.
staff treat him differently. They're more
Which is interesting.
distrustful of him. Yeah.
Right.
He's a fascinating character, like one of the most well-written characters, I feel like.
I gotta read this book. I'm gonna read it.
Go ahead. I would recommend it.
I love the moment where McMurphy gets over the wall and then Chief like kind of smiles at him.
Which doesn't happen in the book, by the way. Doesn't
Oh, do they not? Do they not drive? Does he not steal the bus? None of that happens.
No, he doesn't steal the bus. He actually is a lot smarter than that, by the way. Because the whole trip is sanctioned. Like, they don't steal the bus, they don't run away. He convinces the doctor to let them go on a fishing trip because the doctor also loves fishing. The doctor goes with them.
Oh.
And then shit goes awry because they do steal the boat, but it starts as a sanctioned fishing trip
Right.
that he kind of just like cleverly finagles.
And then there's the other moment where they're playing basketball, which I think is there's so many funny little things.
There's no basketball in the book. Actually, that's not true. They do play a little basketball, but there's not as much basketball. Go on.
This isn't fucking like Mike. There's not that much basketball.
And why wasn't it? Why the fuck
Where was
wasn't it
Bow
like
Wow
Mike?
during this?
Yeah, no, where was Bow Wow? In the womb? No, way before.
I think I just love the basketball scene because like Martini, played by Danny DeVito, and just like he's just like the cutest man
Which
around.
was shocking. I was like, oh shit, that's Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
It just like hit me like a ton of bricks.
He like walks around like this, like he's so it's such a funny performance. But at one point McMurphy passes Martini the ball when they're playing against the staff, and Martini just like whips it against the fence. Pass it to like Harding, and he's like the bad dribbler, like the kid who's like not coordinated. And he's like, pass the ball, pass. Hey, hold on. Anyway,
but it's
I
funny
think
because like they've definitely never played basketball before. Like they
No.
have a basketball court, they just don't use it.
right, McMurphy has managed to he's like been able to get them to play, and now
Yeah.
they're like, wait, how do you do this? I just think like there's a bunch of like moving shit in the movie. Like even when they watch the baseball game,
Yeah.
like pretend to watch the baseball game. I find that very moving.
That was similar to the book.
Okay.
I'm only talking about the book from now.
This is Bookcast, and this is Oscar Books.
Great music. I like the music.
The music is by Jack Nietzsche. He's worked with Neil Young. He like produced Harvest.
Oh.
He's like a frequent collaborator with Neil Young. It's kind of like a Western adjacent score. That's what I heard. Like it has like sort of like a sweeping, almost like Western quality to it.
You're right. It does. It's got
And
elements of that.
And I think especially at the end where it's like really swelling when like Chief smothers McMurphy.
Yeah.
And then when Chief is like running off, not into the sunset, but just like sort of into the distance.
It's the night. Yeah.
I'm like, there's something to a Native American character becoming, in the final moments of the movie, becoming the focal point, and then like riding off into the sunset with like Western music swelling. I don't really have anything else to say. I just think there's something interesting about it.
I mean, it's a beautiful moment. That's one of the moments where I was just like, oh shit, this is movies, baby.
Shit, I knew you were gonna say that. This is movies.
Yeah. Like that was awesome. That was really cool.
Yeah.
The whole like last 15 minutes are pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Who's the actor for Billy Bibbit?
Brad Dourif.
He's a great job when they're taking him away and he's just like screaming. It's so heart-wrenching.
Yeah, because Ratchet's like, I'm gonna tell your mom, and it's like, why not? Obviously, you're upsetting him. How about just chill out for a second?
Yeah, and my second biggest problem with the movie is that she's so much more of a villain in the book. Like, I guess you see it all through Chief's eyes. So like, it's agreed that like he's not the most reliable narrator. Um, but like at least from his perspective, like she's like this vile, poisonous person. Like in the movie, you kind of interpret her as just this person who's maybe a little bit gruff, but like ultimately just trying to do her job and help these people. In the book, it's not like that. Like she's actively trying to pit people against each other and just does a lot of bad for the ward. And it's so clear in the book. And so you revel in the moments where they get to uprise against her. But in the movie, I'm just like, she's kind of just doing her job, you know?
See, that's what I like about it though, is
Yeah,
like, you know, I feel like Nurse Ratchet gets played as gets pegged as like this like one of the great villains in film history or whatever. Like I feel like you'll
it
see
is.
like these fucking lists and it's like number 23, Nurse Ratchet. And yeah, that was my read on the movie too, is like she's a little annoying, but like she's annoying in the way like a teacher is annoying, where you're like, oh my God,
Yeah,
why do I have to do this homework? Um, like yeah,
totally.
like she's like a little bit just trying to do her job, but I think that makes the movie more interesting to me. Like it makes it more complicated, where it's like even Nurse Ratched is played by Louise Fletcher. Even her
Isn't it?
performance, it's like kind of muted. Like we don't really. What I like is you don't really get exactly beyond her being an authority figure. You don't get why McMurphy like hates her so much
Yeah.
because her Louise Fletcher's performance is like pitched right down the middle. Is that the right turn of phrase? It's basically pitched where it's like her face hardly gives anything away about why she's making decisions and what she feels about the decisions she's making. Even her tone is like very controlled.
Yeah.
Um,
There is one moment where she kind of just like stares daggers at McMurphy when they're in the scene where they're all sharing stuff.
well, she definitely doesn't like McMurphy. I think that's
No.
like yeah, like she definitely. Well, that what's interesting is like, yeah, she stares daggers at him like pretty frequently because he'll just say the most vile shit. He's like, Billy, you should be bird dogging chicks. Um, but she also has that scene. It's I think after the boat incident where all of like the higher ups are in a room talking to each other and they're like, should we keep him? Like he's probably not mentally ill. Like he probably shouldn't stay here. And Nurse Ratched is like, but that's just another case of us passing our problems on to somebody else. We should try and like rehabilitate him. She's like, I believe we can help him. Um, but you can read it two ways, I guess. You could say like, I read it as like an earnest. She thinks she actually genuinely believes she can help him.
No,
But I guess
sir.
you could also read it as like, oh, she wants to keep him here so she can because she knows what McMurphy
Yes.
doesn't, which is like he's been committed
Yeah.
because he was transferred from a work farm to a psychiatric hospital. He was committed. He's not there voluntarily. His sentence won't be up like at this when his work farm sentence would have ended.
Isn't it?
So you could read it as like she keeps him here because she wants to ruin his life.
Well, it's not either of those, really.
Okay. In the book.
It's more like she wants to keep him around so she can best him. Like
Right.
she's not even really worried about him. She's worried about regaining control of the rest of the ward. Because they've inhabited a lot of McMurphy's traits and they have started, speaking up for themselves and rebelling in small ways. She wants to regain control, and she's like, the only way I can do that is if I beat him. You know, it's set up more as like this game of mental chess, where like McMurphy's trying to best Nurse Ratchet and vice versa, but he can't just go completely ape shit and just start going nuts because if he gets, because they'll send him away to get electroshock therapy or lobotomized or what have you. Like he can't beat her that way. He has to do it by just like these small ways of getting under her skin, and that explains a lot of his behavior.
Like in every instance, when Nicholson gets overwhelmed, like when McMurphy gets overwhelmed, he's like smashing glass and being like, Cheswick, here's your fucking cigarettes. Like, calm down.
Yeah, but I mean
Um,
that does happen, but like it's much more of a it's like a cathartic moment. It's like a tipping point. That scene
right.
is when he smashes the glass, and it's for a different reason too. I can't quite recall, but that was like an example of like maybe he's pushing too far. Like the whole time he's teetering on this balance of like, how do I push but not too far that I either get kicked off the ward or some other punishment that's too harsh.
Right.
Read the book.
Stop
I'm done.
proselytizing
I'm
about
done.
books.
I'm done. Don't read it. Don't read a fucking thing if you don't want to. I'll say one more thing.
Speak your mind.
How did people think electroshock therapy was good?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, do they still do that?
I think it might be a more voluntary thing now that like you can ask for it. I don't really know. I'm not any kind of expert on this, but I don't know. Basically, is my I think it does still happen, but I don't
That's
know.
fucking medieval, dude. That's some medieval shit.
It seems like Nurse Ratched thought it would do something to him, but he's like,
Yeah.
no, it's actually it's like radicalized him even more. And the final the sort of last we've kind of circled it and talked about parts of it, but yeah, like the orderly who was had McMurphy cornered goes running to the room where Billy was, and McMurphy can escape, but he like the Candy and that other woman are are outside, and they're like, "Come on!" And but he goes to Billy, who has killed himself,
It's,
and it's really upsetting.
oh yeah,
Um,
big time.
and then McMurphy's like, "You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna
How
try
about
and
this?
kill and choke and kill Nurse Ratched." And yeah, and then he's like he nearly chokes her to death, and then
Yeah.
he's knocked out by one of the orderlies. Yeah, it's just like fucking really upsetting shit. Like when he's like trying to kill Nurse Ratched, I was like, this is I McMurphy, like I get you're upset, and this is very upsetting. I think you may have gone a little too far. Also,
Yeah.
you're sort of the one that made this happen a little bit. Like you brought this party to the ward, and maybe you should have not.
But also, like, he's so restrained throughout the whole book that it comes as such a shock when he like that becomes the final straw that does him in. Like
Oh, so
that
he
was
does
like
this in the book.
he does do this in the book. It happens a little bit differently, but like he does basically do this. And it's kind of like it's not. I mean, obviously, it's unfortunate for Nurse Ratched. Like, but don't go out strangling people. Okay, that's our official stance. Don't do it. Not condoned.
Bad, bad.
But it's definitely like the final straw that does him in. Like the whole time he's kind of like playing this game of chess with her, and then it comes to blows, and that's what
Right.
screws him in the end.
See, what's interesting about the movie is the whole time you're like, I feel like McMurphy would kill a woman.
Yeah, totally. I'd be like,
Like,
yeah, this is a dangerous individual.
yeah, like Nicholson's performance. You're like, he's probably smacked some of his ladies around, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm like,
I
this
don't
guy's a
know.
loose cannon and not in a
Yeah,
fun way.
yeah. So yeah, I could see that being like feeling different in the book, the way you describe it.
In the book, he mostly plays by the book. Like, he plays by the rules throughout
Right.
most of it because he knows that that's part of the game, you know?
Right.
And then he just goes ape shit in the end.
Anything else to say about this godforsaken movie?
No, I think I've said it all. I mean, ultimately, the lack of perspective from Chief Bromden is like the biggest issue in my mind. Because like, you know what? When the setting never changes, it becomes really apparent when you can actually see it. And when your setting never changes, you need to get into the minds of these characters more. Because when I'm looking at it, I'm like, we're just kind of in the same place, and I can see how it could get boring for somebody. Like, we don't really change locations except for the fishing trip, and that's pretty much it.
That is a really good point.
Like, visually, it doesn't change much,
Right.
but there's nothing else to make up for that.
You hear that, Milo? She's fucking coming for your ass.
What the fuck is up, Milosh? Show us some hallucination scenes, Milosh.
Are there hallucination scenes in
that I would have loved to see visualize, but alas.
All you need is a little Nicholson.
All you need is a little Nicholson in your life.
Nicholson, please.
Did you like this movie? Do you like it?
I think it's great. Yeah.
I like it. I think it's fine. I just think there's a far superior version out there.
What's funny is like I feel like if you hadn't read the book, you'd be like, "This finally a fucking movie ass movie."
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's just been tainted, but like, I would recommend to anybody take the visuals that you've seen in this movie, go read the book, and be like, and just apply those, combine those together, and make beautiful magic babies.
Right.
Magic Cuckoo Nest. You don't even find out why it's called One Flew. Tell me why it's called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. They don't say. They don't say at all.
I assume like the Cuckoo's Nest is the hospital and Jack Nicholson's the guy, or maybe Chief's the guy. He's flying from the Cuckoo's Nest at the end.
I don't know. I guess you could maybe interpret it that way, but like it's part of like a limerick or nursery rhyme that Chief remembers from when he was younger.
Oh, you know what? I just want like last night after I watched the movie, I was like,
Yeah.
let me, because Amazon lets you like preview books, like you can read like a few pages, like the
Okay.
first few pages. So I was like, let me see how this reads. Let me see how what Chief's voice is like. And then the epigraph to the book is the nursery rhyme. And I was like,
Oh,
oh,
interesting.
It was like yeah. I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I don't know if it was like made up for the book specifically, like, but or if it's like an
I
actual
don't
nursery
know.
rhyme. But either way,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's kind of I didn't know it was like a nursery rhyme.
Yeah, I mean, I just read people on Letterboxd being like, "Why is this One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?" And I'm like, God, there's an answer. Milosh.
Your mission in life now is to just comment on every single one and be like, there's a reason. And just
What
sending
are
them
this-
like a fucking bookshop.org link for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
I mean, there are a lot of these movies that are based on books. I'm not gonna read them all, but maybe I should.
On the Hamlet episode, I'm gonna read Hamlet actually for the episode.
Hamlet.
Because I've never read Hamlet.
That's a movie?
Would you like to hear the other nominees for the Oscar year of 1976?
Yes, I would. God damn it.
There's 5 nominees. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest obviously wins. The 4 other nominees this year is crazy.
Crazy.
All right.
Who's in there?
First nominee.
Yeah.
We have Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon.
The hell is that?
It is a fucking masterpiece. It's other than 2001, it is my favorite Kubrick movie. It's fucking 3 hours short.
Jesus.
An Irish rogue uses his cunning and wit to work his way up the social classes of 18th century England, transforming himself from the humble Redmond Barry into the noble Barry Lyndon.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
That
a
tells me
picturesque
nothing.
movie. He sort of goes from thing to thing, until eventually he's like rich and it's just like his life is imploding and his family's imploding. Kubrick famously developed these really low light lenses because he wanted to shoot a lot of the movie by candlelight, and there was no lens that could shoot low light like that. So he was like, "Hey, NASA, do you want to help develop fucking lenses?"
fucking way.
Yeah. He was like, "Do you want to, since you guys obviously need to like shoot space and that's, dark, do you want to help me develop some lenses?" And they were like, yeah, Stanley.
I guess they worked together on the moon landing, right?
Yeah, that's true. They had a previous relationship.
He's still under contract.
Yeah, Barry Lyndon fucking rules.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
I
I
think you'd
still
like it.
don't think I've seen a Kubrick piece.
You've seen The Shining.
I've seen The Shining. That's right. Oh, that's right. I've seen every Stanley Kubrick movie. That's what it is.
Uh, um, highly recommend. I mean, Kubrick. He's one of the greats. What can I say?
Shout
Not a
out.
hot take, but whatever. Next up is a movie I remember loving. I probably saw this movie around the same time that I saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, like that 15 ages between the age of 14 and 16 when I was watching like all the top 100 movies of all time and shit like
Nice.
that. This is Dog Day Afternoon, directed by Sidney Lumet,
Yeah.
starring Al Pacino.
Big
Based on
Al.
the true story of would-be Brooklyn bank robbers John, I'm gonna butcher this, Wojciech and Salvatore Natural. Sonny and Sal attempt a bank
Sally
heist.
Naturals.
Sonny and Sal attempt a bank heist, which quickly turns sour and escalates into a hostage situation and standoff with the police. As Sonny's motives for the robbery are slowly revealed and things become more complicated, the heist turns into a media circus. I don't
Is it
know if this
good?
is true. I want to say in the movie, the reason they're robbing the bank, I think Al Pacino's character is gay and I think he's robbing the bank to get money for his partner who I think is trans and wants to get like reassignment surgery. I think that's true. People right now are screaming and being like, you're wrong and stupid. But I want to say
And
that
that's the
becomes the
beauty of,
motivation.
hey, that's the beauty of the medium. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But it's a really, really good movie.
Okay.
I haven't seen it in like fucking 10 years. I should rewatch it. Next up is a little movie called Jaws. Just the
Wow.
best movie ever made.
Wow. Okay. Is
Crazy that
Jaws
the
really that good?
Yeah, it's the best movie ever made. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
Best movie ever made.
Yeah. It's a
Why do you say
perfect
that?
film. It's a perfect film.
Jaws?
Yeah,
That
Jaws,
fucking
Jaws.
That Chuck E. Cheese ass shit?
Jaws, yeah, Jaws. Ever heard of it?
No, never seen it actually.
Have
But
you
I
ever
have
seen
heard of it.
Jaws?
No.
That's
I know this.
crazy.
I know the song. I do know the song.
You know the
I
song?
do know the song. It goes like bam 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 bam. Get the fuck up. Jaws says get the fuck up. Good song.
Jaws didn't win best. John Williams won best original score that year. For
Dude,
Jaws, rightfully so.
Johnny
Begins his
sweeps it.
begins his fucking at this point 50 years long relationship with Steven Spielberg as his composer.
Dominant.
And the final film is Robert Altman's Nashville, another 5 out of 5 masterpiece.
That
I think
takes
you'd
place
like
in,
Nashville. Um,
does it take place
it's
in
a little
Tennessee?
long. It's like 2 hours 40, but it's the intersecting stories of 24 characters from country star to wannabe to reporter to waitress connect the music business in Nashville, Tennessee. It's just like people fucking around for 3 hours and like just all these different characters. There's really good music in the movie, lots of like live performances. Um, what?
Sounds a little bit like Vantage Point to me. And I
I
like that.
Does Vantage Point have an assassination in it?
Yes.
Nashville kind of culminates in an assassination.
Really?
Yeah.
Kind of a spiritual successor, I would say, to Vantage Point.
Nashville, one of the great American movies. What can I
All right.
say?
I will check it out.
This is a great year. I think One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is Best Picture worthy, but I think I maybe would have chosen literally all of the other movies over it this year.
Wow.
I think
Okay.
maybe Jaws is my pick this year, or Barry Lyndon. It's kind of a toss
I'll
up, but one of those
Jaws
two
is kind
probably.
of some Chuck E. Cheese shit, but I'll pick it for the song. The song is good. The ba
Stop
ba ba
calling it
ba.
the
The
song.
Jaws song. Ba
You're
ba
not
ba
talking
ba.
about You're not talking about Hotline Bling. You're talking about fucking
I am talking about
like
Hotline Bling.
a classical composition.
You used to call me on my shark phone. Late night when you need a bite.
Do you think Cuckoo's Nest is Best Picture worthy?
I don't get it. I don't really get it.
I
I'll be
thought you were gonna
honest.
say I don't care.
Don't care, frankly. Yeah, give it a. I don't know. There's some impactful moments in it, but ultimately, I'm like, I don't get these characters or why they do what they do. Go read the goddamn fucking ass
Bible.
book.
Oh,
Yeah, go read the Bible. Then come back to me and watch this movie. That's
Yeah.
how I feel. Jealous.
And that-
Congratulations.
is valid, but also
Yeah.
wrong.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Um,
We should make a list of like who actually won the Oscar for every year.
like who we think should have won.
Yeah, like who really is like the Oscar winner.
Well, what's interesting about that is an interesting idea because it's like there are some movies that have been lost to history, like the movie we're going to talk about next week, which I'll announce in a second.
Cool.
And like there's a movie like there are movies that it's like people like what fucking like Burt. No, this
Burt
isn't necessarily
Reynolds?
true, but it's just like there are movies that like have actually stood the test of time, and the movie that won the Best Picture Oscar has been forgotten. That's all I have to say.
Interesting.
And I think that's like an interesting thing to do. Is like what actually has stood the test of time
Yeah.
each year in these Best Picture lists, if anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like a wash, and like none of them have. Like Bugsy, ever heard of it? All right, next week, fuck it. Fuck it.
What?
Ever since we started the show, I'm like, you know whose life I want to know about?
No.
Emile Zola.
Who the fuck is that?
You're going to find out next week when we talk about 1937's, I think it's maybe the 1938 Best Picture winner, The Life of Emile Zola.
Can you shoot me? All right.
It's under 2 hours, so chill out.
No, I'll give it a chance. I'm sorry. I
It's
shouldn't
not
say- I'll
it's
give it
not
a
some
chance.
5-hour epic about nothing.
Okay. No, yeah.
Um,
I'm excited. I'm gonna give it a chance. Maybe it'll surprise me. Those are always the best ones where I'm just like, this is gonna be a piece of shit. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good.
Right. Like honestly, Miss Miniver,
Yeah.
I
Quintessential.
didn't think it was gonna be a piece of shit, but I was like, I don't want to watch this. And I was like,
No.
wait, this movie kind of rips.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I'm like locked in right now.
Yeah, totally. It doesn't happen often, but that's what makes it special when it
Yeah.
does.
So prove me
Um,
wrong, Emil. You
Yeah,
fuck.
come on, Zola. Coca-Zola.
Hey, nice. Dude.
Zola.
Nice, dude. Hey.
All right. So tune in next week, I guess, for that if you listen.
Cool.
I guess you would only be hearing this if you listen. Do me a favor.
Okay.
Cut a hot dog in half.
Oh.
Stuff it with Kraft mac and cheese.
Okay.
Take the mac and cheese out. Because what
Okay.
you're gonna want to do is cut like 3 hot dogs in half, plate them fancy, face up,
Yeah.
pile some mac and cheese in the middle. You're gonna want to do a sort of elevated Friendlies dinner.
Heat.
And your choice of, you could put hot sauce on the fucking mac and cheese. I know I've done that before. Ketchup,
No.
drizzle around the dog.
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. That's what's up.
And then throw it in the garbage because you're not
Wow.
worth it, honestly, frankly.
You don't deserve that. That
You don't
snack
deserve-
is not for you.
Snack. $9.95 for that? Absolutely not.
No way.
For you.
Not yet. Work
Anyway.
towards it. Something
Work
to work
towards it.
towards. Yeah.
That's good. It's good to have goals and
Yeah.
ambitions.
Have goals. Yeah.
Don't be like McMurphy. Wieners.
1, 2, 3, 4. These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that Michael Bay shit. They want the shit that bops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench.
Oscar Wieners.
Oscar Wieners. Oscar Wieners. These boys are the Oscar Wieners. Oscar Wieners.
Always wearing a condom, dude.
That's so weird.
Gotta stay protected.